Hi everyone, welcome to Share Explores, where we talk to different experts about community so you don't have to.
And today's guest is Manan. He's the co founder of MainCross Pro Social Plus, and this is his second startup. In a past life, he's worked in journalism, he's dabbled in offline communities and civic tech as well. We started talking to him via LinkedIn, like all great connections are bound to do. And here we are recording a podcast with him. Manan, welcome to our podcast.
Hi Rihanna, hi C. Thanks for having me here. Excited to be here and talk about community.
So, we always have this signature question that we ask everybody, which is what do you believe is the absolute truth about community?
Well, okay, the absolute truth about community. Maybe we'll skip over sort of the basics that have become kind of ubiquitous. That it has to be sort of member to member interaction. It has to have space to exist, even if the builder is absent at some point of time. These are things that I think at least the serious builders are now taking for granted. But one thing that I really want to stress, and this is from a conversation I was having with someone just a little while before, and we were talking about how products go viral. That community is not something that will go viral. I mean, community has to be grown. And if there's one absolute sort of truth that I have to say is this: that community is not a campaign. It is not something to go viral. It is something that you grow over time. And if you do it audaciously, if you do it with intent, then it has, I think, manifold the returns thing else can provide.
Thank God you said if you do it with intent because we're seeing a rise of community at a crazy level. Like everyone and their dads right now have a WhatsApp group. Which brings me to my next question, which is you've been building Main Cross for a few years. We know what it is, but our viewers do not. So could you just tell us a little bit about what it is and why are you building it?
So essentially, MainCross is a no-code network builder. We look at it as the sort of operating system for networks. It could be a community network, it could be a content network. Essentially, and this really ties to this trend that we are seeing, and it is more than a trend. I think, like because and it's happening in two ways: online to offline and offline to online. I mean, we are seeing a lot of associations already, sort of member-driven organizations, which had tremendous sort of on-ground offline engagement at their conferences, at their maybe annual events. They are wanting to sort of channelize that digitally, do it in a more structured manner. They have existed for about 30, 40 years, but they had zero digital communication happening between their members. So that is where it is happening from offline to online, and then online to offline, in the sense that every brand wants to build a community. There is an inundation of content online, so you want to connect with people offline. So you need to have events, you need to have event registration, you need to also own that data, in a sense that when people are coming in, you can't have 100 different Google Forms for 100 different events. So those are the kind of things that we were seeing were happening. We think this will only accelerate. But where we felt a need for a product like ours was that we felt the operators, the founders, they were using 10 different tools for all of these different functions. There's increasingly a word that is being used for this, which is called Frankenstack. Something, how Frankenstein was put together with different body parts. So it works when you are beginning. I think you can duct tape tools. When you're scaling, you will not be able to see where data has fallen through, where maybe a consumer had a bad experience, where a PDF was not delivered when somebody filled a form. So we felt that community has to be seen as part of the infrastructure, and for that it needs integrated digital infrastructure. So that's the reason we've built MainCross, and that is what it provides.
There's no real modular approach to building community, at least today. So since building main cross, is there a particular kind of brand or a particular sector that you see that comes to you for building community?
So we've been in sort of business for the past three odd years. Largely, most of our consumers have been using this in the US to build their communities. Since last year, it has been used quite a bit in India, and largely, if I have to sort of put our customers into buckets, one is of course the person who intentionally wants to build a community-led venture. This could be a professional creator. For example, a journalist who now wants to start their own media venture, have a newsletter which is public, but have a private community membership space, have offline events where they have discussions around their niche topic. The second is associations and trade fairs, which have existed, which are becoming like a very key sort of segment and sector for us right now, because there those members already exist. I mean, they were never using the word community, but a community in a sense always existed for them. Now we are able to come in and provide the digital infrastructure to them, and they can just begin and get out and sort of start using it from day one. The third is, I think, founder-led brands who want to build I mean, they want to begin with a community first approach, even when they're starting out a brand. Even if they don't have a product, they first want to sort of get their word out there, build a smaller audience, then within that audience, try and build a community. And particularly for them, we've also built commerce into our platform because we feel that that is one place where data and the metrics also get lost. When community is hosted on one platform and your sales happen on another, then you're not able to track a lot of things. Even retention at that point of time is very difficult to sort of justify over a longer period of time, the cost that you're putting in.
So you were saying that people who are building newsletters now want these private communities. Are these communities monetized or are they just freely on the platform?
So they are monetized as well. Some of them are beginning just with free sort of communities, free private groups within their larger audience. But the intention is to monetize. And everyone is really experimenting in what is the real value that community can provide via them. The value of community has to be distinct from the value of the product that you're trying to sell. And once that becomes clear, then you are in a good position to monetize.
I like that you said that because a lot of times brands intend to start a community hoping that it'll justify the product or the value of a product. But to be honest, no matter how good of a community you build, at the end of the day, if your product is really shitty, no one will, buy from the community. It doesn't matter. Let's say Sephora had a great community, but it had a great community because it was also providing great value to the people in the community, right?
Right.
Or Nike has a great community, yes, but they also do have like great products that resonate with people. So it doesn't matter where or how big of a community you make, it cannot be the reason why people buy from you. It always has to be with product. And I think a lot of brands now that are starting off, they see community as like another place where they can get customers, as opposed to a place where it's nurturing the customers or the people who've like kind of explored or discovered the product. So I'm glad you said that.
Nike is a very good example because I mean there you can clearly see that the product is a separate thing, but the value
Yeah.
that the run clubs and all that engagement on their app is completely distinct.
Over the last few years, communities become a buzzword. Like the most famous platform right now for community is WhatsApp, and every other group. Even at this point, I feel like even your college group is a community, right? Just call it an alumni community. So I'd love to know, when it comes to communities on MainCross, what are the most interesting ones that you've seen so far?
When I started seeing a lot of people use WhatsApp for their communities, I used to get a little miffed initially as a product company. Then you also start thinking that why WhatsApp. So there is something that WhatsApp is definitely doing right. It is providing that value, so we need to build with that kind of stuff. And that's really the intention that we've now taken. Some of the best use cases of a community that MainCross is currently seeing within our customers is maybe also around more hyperlocal communities. So, for example, there is a startup from Bangalore, which is completely built on MainCross, where they want to build hyperlocal communities around specific needs that people may have. So, they could be people looking for, different centers, or people looking for run clubs around them, wanting to join these meetups. So the ability of the platform allowed them to geotag all of these specific neighborhoods, map all the community members who want to provide these services, or someone who may be having a run club, or someone who wants to provide defense. They are all on the platform. They've listed their services, so you can really move from Koramangala to Indranagar and see a different set of people, a different community within those specifics. And within those communities, all of these interactions, of course communication happens within the community, but also the transactions can happen within that community. There are a couple of other community led networks on MainCross. One, for example, is in the space of politics, where this is someone who's built a community. I mean, it's not really a community app, I would say. Community is a major part of it, but it is really an app for their constituency, and for all the citizens in that constituency to connect with the person who at one point in time was the representative of the constituency in the legislative assembly. So people could really share their feedback, their grievances through the app, connect with each other. They could also send, because geotagging was built in, they could go to a bus stop and scan the QR code and tell them that the street light is not working here. If 100 other members around that place respond to that, then it gives the signal to the person that this is a genuine problem. There are 100 people concerned. So I think community in this particular use case allowed them to understand the seriousness of the problem also. It's not one person who's raising that issue, it's 100 people.
You had mentioned this, I think, earlier in our first call also, that there is like a political aspect, not an aspect, or rather like a use case for MainCross where companies, not companies, political groups or whoever wants to get into that can come and create a community and then do well in that sector, right? What you've told us is a fantastic example because it's allowing for that two-way communication. My question is, have you seen them use any specific fundamentals that you think any other brand or anybody else trying to build a community should take this like 1, 2, and 3 lessons from that?
Right. So, okay. So I'll start this answer with a caveat that we are a product, a tool for communities. When somebody is building a community, I think the strategy part comes first before even the platform comes in, where experts like you, come into the picture. One of the first things is that you identify what is the value that you think the community will provide, not the product that you want to sell, not the votes that you want to gain in next election, but what is the value that you will be able to provide. Once some of those things are clear, then the next step is, I think, getting your first 50 to 100 members, identifying them, getting the right people in first can, I think, I won't say make or break, but it can really, decide how long you take to get to a certain sort of a point where you are happy with the community. If the right 50 people are in early, then engagement automatically sort of becomes a little more organic. They start participating. And the third thing that really helps are rituals. Having rituals for community, having maybe every Wednesday you'll sit down or you'll have some quiz, or whatever form of engagement works best for you. For example, the person who was running this political community, we had a leaderboard on the platform which would showcase who are the most active citizens in different villages in that constituency. And every month, the leader would take the top 10 people on that leaderboard out for lunch. It, of course, provided a certain incentive to everyone to participate, but it was a ritual that everyone looked forward to. Every brand can really do this, through their events, online event, offline event, whatever touch points they want to create. So I think having those rituals, identifying what ritual will work best for you, depending on what kind of community you're building, would be something that, I think any new community builder or existing community builder should think about carefully.
I think a lot of brands forget that when you're building a community, it's nice to tell people, oh, I run a community of, like, let's say 5,000, 10,000, 15,000. But when you get everyone at at such a fast pace, you really don't get to create the culture. And that's what you were talking about, right? Like, it doesn't make or break, but it does set the tone of your community, and it does impact the way people interact with each other. So we call it like the community culture. So your first, let's say 50 or your first 100 really matter. Make sure the first 50 like really understand what the community is about, what value the community is going to provide to them, and kind of nurture them to become like my community champions. Because when the next 50 come in, they will be awkward, but my first 50 are already primed, right? They're going to be so friendly and they're going to be so enthusiastic, and they're going to ease my job to the point where I don't need to say hi, hello, introduce yourself. They'll do it for me. So yeah, I really think culture does play a huge role. I just hope people are patient enough to let that culture grow. Like, people do want to see a rush job with a lot of things, but when you're dealing with people who also have lives, they
Right.
have a fully fledged life, right, outside your community. I think it's important to like slow it down a little bit, and community kind of gives that space to all of us to kind of slow down, see what kind of people have come in, build that culture, and then from there you can scale pretty fast. Which brings me to a question I want to ask you that everyone loves asking us, right? Which is, why should a community exist for a business or a brand, especially given the ROI is not that quick?
Right. Yeah. It keeps coming up, doesn't it? Everywhere. Even with existing communities, because every cycle, because I think every marketing team that has to justify their costs, they are asked, I think, internally every quarter of what's going on. It would really come down to how the organization or the brand is really defining what they want to really take out of it over a period of time. But the prime sort of benefits, the business benefits of having a community, apart from sort of the pro social human sided benefits, the core business benefits, I think number one is retention. Patience is always a challenge, and I think that is a challenge because we are always comparing this to social media, we are comparing it to distribution. We forget that community is not there for distribution, it is for retention. It is to get more people have that sense of belonging. to grow through them, with them, not to sort of extract immediate value out of the members who are joining the community. So number one business benefit for me is retention. Number two is feedback for a new product maybe that you may be coming up with, a new service that you want to provide. Yeah, so retention, feedback, and then ultimately distribution. When, like you said, when those 50 members are primed, they go outside as champions, they become your ambassadors. And I mean, if we do that right for a sizable amount of time, I think that ROI cannot be beaten by any amount of money you may spend on ads on social media, because the trust that also builds, especially in the niche of community and health and wellness where you are operating in, the trust that community provides, I think, is the paramount business benefit. That, I mean, it should be a no-brainer, I think, to any brand.
You're right to say it should be a no-brainer, but you were also saying that existing, like brands who have existing communities, also have that challenge that they don't know what will they get from coming to your platform. What are the difficulties you face when you're trying to explain the concept of community to some brands or businesses that don't have community at all?
One of my biggest frustrations early on, when we were sort of building our own concepts around communities. Now today there are structured processes and tools that you have, and outside if you look, it is a decently growing, maturing industry as well. So given what I've seen, what I've learned, my biggest frustration earlier used to be that how can you be a D2C brand if you are relying on a third party all the time? How are you direct to consumer? If you have your own community, that is direct. Even today, of course, distribution is important. You want visibility, and you are dependent on third party social media platforms, Instagram, in India especially right now. It used to be a challenge because the generic understanding that we have now had, that it has to, you are chasing the number of views, you're chasing the number of likes, and that translates to how you are viewing community. There's a bit of a challenge there when you're really trying to translate that to someone who you think will benefit if they build a community. Where it has helped over the last few months is that there are examples out there somehow of people getting shocked because Instagram handles being blocked, which has happened a lot more in the recent past for some reason. And when that happens, then we've seen some of those conversations which went dormant last year, they come back again. Even if they don't build a community, they should at least build first party data. At least you want people, you want that data of the people who are following you. Ideally, you do that in a manner that they feel that they want to join and be part of your audience or your community, and they are sharing that data with you, not in an extractive manner. Once that message gets across, and I've also got to sort of agree that there are increasingly more cognizant brands and founders who understand this, because the consumers are also now demanding that brands respect a certain line when it is about their data, their privacy, what kind of content and identity these brands are building. This is something that we talk about internally. Is I think that identity, community, and utility, the three of these coming together, is I think what will increasingly shape the growth trajectory for businesses.
Now that you have told us all the challenges when it comes to explaining the concept, with the challenges comes the favorite term of all founders, which is ROI. I don't mean like the fluff, right? The brand awareness badega. I wanted to understand from like a concrete number perspective, what kind of ROI does MainCross help brands achieve when they're talking about community?
Right. So I think the first thing there is to sort of address the idea of using a Frankenstack. Brands use multiple different tools where they're paying for all of these different tools easily. For a survey tool, for a form tool, for an events tool, where they also pay, if it is a paid event, they also pay commission to the event platform, to an email, a platform where they are sending broadcast emails, digest emails from. A bunch of these different tools that they're using, it would easily cross, I think, in INR 10,000 to 15,000 rupees a month for these bunch of tools. Outside, it is easily crossing 150 to $200 a month. So we've sort of bundled all of these together, and when somebody is wanting to begin their sort of network with all of these tools intact in their own branding, it with MainCross it starts at about 4,000 rupees a month, all of these tools bundled in. So that, I think, is the first sort of space that you can immediately see the difference it has in terms of the costs, in terms of operational costs. The second is, so there are a bunch of things that we've built into MainCross. For example, there is referral tracking, which allows you to see, when a member is pulling in more members, when they're becoming an ambassador. If a member is pulling in more members, and if that member is then, if the purchases are also happening on the platform, that is where you can clearly see the ROI, which currently it may be happening for brands that are building communities in different platforms, but it is difficult to justify because you're not able to attribute it everywhere. The third thing is retention, in a sense of not looking at, I mean, this is not really a monetary sort of metric, but social media has trained us to think only in terms of daily active users or weekly active users. But when you see retention translate into a purchase over a month or 2 months or 3 months, then you are really able to see the lifetime value. And community, I think what DAU is to social media, LTV, lifetime value, is to communities. So once you see that, I mean, that's your biggest ROI, I think.
Most of the brands that we work with want to work on WhatsApp because it's free. And then we have to do everything to kind of get the data sorted. And you're right, we don't know how referral works because there's no way to track it. So, how do you get people to come on your platform? What I mean is, let's say I'm a brand and I want to build my community on MainCross. India is a WhatsApp first country. So, how do you get people to leave the habit of checking WhatsApp and adopt a new habit of checking a whole nother platform?
Right. I think so. This also goes back to sort of looking of our understanding of community, of not looking at as a place where someone has to come in every day, or they have to come in every hour and come and see what's the latest message, what's happened, and things like that. We are not here to fight WhatsApp. WhatsApp is very deeply ingrained. What we've done is that we've built with WhatsApp. So we've integrated WhatsApp in a manner where if a brand builds a community on MainCross and you want to integrate WhatsApp, then whenever a message or a post is published within your community, a notification goes to the member. So they know that this has been published. If they are interested, they can click on it, come to the community, interact. So they are not missing out, even if they don't commit to the community. There are automated messages to Telegram that go out if someone wants it on Telegram. There are emails that go out. So, I mean, so WhatsApp has become sort of this de facto default kind of community platform, but it is really serving as a channel right now. I mean, you can't really search messages. You can't, go back to a lot of things. So we've treated it as a channel. Your community stays in one place. You own everything there. It's your sovereign place. But WhatsApp channel works for you. Notifications can be sent that way. Of course, WhatsApp charges per message. So over a period of time, only if a brand is able to see a return on investment with regards to that will they continue doing that. But we've seen some of our customers, and more so among professional communities, associations, trade fairs, where there is an immediate sense that this notification, this information should reach all our members, and the members also value that information, so they are okay with the costs, and the costs are not tremendously high, but of course it is, I mean, a per message cost that WhatsApp has.
I think, like Sheena was saying, that a lot of brands do prefer WhatsApp simply because it is free. And oftentimes we have also recommended WhatsApp because it is a top of mind media channel, right? Like messaging channel for Indians at least. But the expectation, weirdly, for a lot of brands is that the community manager will bring in people to the community, right? Which is easier, I guess, to do on WhatsApp because everybody has the app. But in your experience, right, how do brands get people onto your platform? Or is that something you help them with? Because a lot of bringing people in somewhere is a tofu activity. Your community sits in the middle of the funnel. So, how does that work for MainCross?
When a brand is setting up sort of their platform, right, when it is powered by MainCross, it is white labeled, it is branded under their name. I mean, the ideal sort of a brand would build everything on the platform, so their public information will also sit there, not just their private community. You first need to get distribution, get these people on your platform. Distribution will either happen through social media or your visibility on Google search at a previous time, today on ChatGPT or Claude or wherever. So, firstly, on social media, of course, you need to sort of create that content there, have that strategy around that. But the ability for every member, every person in the team to share content from your platform onto these other platforms, when you're sharing all that content and putting it out there on these third party platforms, each of those goes out with a referral tracking link, of course, also. people discover that, they come back to the platform. First, maybe they'll just come in to consume the content. We don't think that every first sort of visitor on a site or the platform will become a member. Maybe it'll take 10 times if they are interested to even subscribe to your platform, maybe a member, until it immediately resonates, or there is a very very key pain point that the community is solving for them. It'll take much longer for them to convert onto the platform. The second is discovery on search, on chat gpt or claude, on all these ai tools. They are also increasingly giving visibility to brands that have a robust community around them. Right now all of that is coming from reddit, where brands have in an organic manner built their communities without sort of putting their name immediately out there. But brands that are beginning to host communities on their own platforms, where these llms can see that there are 100 different usernames of people interacting around that. All of this is user generated content. Those are signals of credibility to these llms that also enhance visibility on these platforms. And this would maybe go back to the roi point again of visibility for these brands, because community is not just providing you retention. In this case it is providing you visibility also everywhere, because ai makes content creation so easy. So you need better signals for credibility, which comes from authentic members of a community. So that is where again a little bit of distribution comes in, where visibility comes in, and then maybe some of those members will trickle on to your platform. I don't think there is sort of a magic pill that the platform can at all provide for to get people into the platform.
For these like visibility or search friendly posts, are there any recommendations that you give brands that, okay, let's say you are a women's health community, should you do like a extremely niche post about, let's say, PCOS becoming PMOS? Are there recommendations that you give, or is it just you have the platform then you can figure out what you need to
No,
do?
there are definitely recommendations that we give. One sort of universal recommendation that we're giving to everyone is that you put yourself in the members' shoes and think about the prompt that you're writing when you're looking for something. Everyone is writing a detailed prompt. I will write that I'm a person in Jaipur. It is this degree hot right now, and I'm looking for the coldest watermelon juice, or whatever. I mean, you are getting very very detailed with prompts. When you're creating that content on your platform, you need to think that way and create content that is as detailed for that person, and that will 100% show up when those detailed prompts are asked, and that will ensure that visibility is there. And when people really find exactly what they're looking for, the first domino of trust falls right there. And it's, I think, then easier. I think content definitely has a part to sort of making it easier for someone to cross that bridge of community.
If I was a new brand coming to you, wanting to start my community on MainCross, from what you've said, I would assume that the first recommendation that you'd give me is make sure I have enough visibility in the market so that when people come across my content or where they discover me, they kind of trust me as a brand, and then ultimately trust that if I join the community, I'm going to get good value from the content or the activities that will go out on the community. Other than that, what do you think brands need to do to grow the community? Because to me, growing the community needs to be pushed by a lot of tofu activities. Now, these tofu activities could be, your team posting every day on LinkedIn, or you posting every day as a founder. You have a social media team doing some sort of content. It doesn't need to go viral, but it also needs to have a good enough view number. I know this is again vanity metric, but it needs to be visible enough to enough people that they discover you. And of course, newsletter, ads, like everything that you can think of, a lot of it is distribution, right? So I mean, other than just distribution, what else should brands do so that when they have a community, they have that influx of people?
When a brand is wanting to come and set up a community on MainCross, it may not necessarily have immediate visibility. You can, of course, start without having any visibility, starting absolutely from scratch, from zero. That is also something that, those are also customers that we are currently powering, but they are building with patience. We don't want to be sort of the platform which gives them a sense of misbelief, that if we build with MainCross, then we'll succeed. That is definitely not the impression that we want to give. It is for people who are building with intention, and those are the people that we really want to serve. Now, having said that, when brands are wanting to grow their community, apart from all these tofu activities of content and distribution and all of that, what we've also seen is that once you have some number of people within the community, you want to empower them. So you design your system in a sense which incentivizes them to participate more within the community, but also take stuff out from the community. If there is a great pain point that has been solved for a member, you want to, in a respectful manner, have them talk about this outside within their circle and get that story out. Being able to track when that happens, if they are publishing something on the platform, maybe, and the community on MainCross can have public-private parts to it. So if it is something that they've published in a public space, if that is shared, so empowering more members to tell their stories, reaching out through their members, finding brands that align with your values. I think community also does not have to be sort of a solo ride for a brand. You can identify brands, founders, partners who you can build with, and really when that ecosystem sort of starts growing, then I think every community sort of grows. And that was really our larger vision with MainCross. So right now we're currently, it is being used independently by a lot of different communities or associations or founders wanting to build community-led ventures. But at some stage, we want to get to have all of these as interoperable networks so that distribution flows across all of these ecosystems rather than having big tech sort of captive audiences which can't go outside their wall.
A big issue that we are seeing, because people do want communities, they see some hope or some inkling, but they don't want to invest in it. They think, okay, content AI se likha lenge wo kar lenge, and it's be a piece of cake. We spoke to somebody recently who said, I have no idea about how communities work or how they run. I'm not a content guy, but all the community things we're doing is just generated from AI. Then the question was, but it's not growing, right? So with AI now in full force, what do you think are like some drastic changes that will impact community or the future of communities at least?
Well, I am very bullish that it will accelerate the desire for genuine community. There is, I mean, a great inundation of content online, and you want to see if it is coming from a real source, from a real person, if it is a real story. Secondly, it will, I think, increasingly push people offline, which is also already happening. That we're beginning to see, that around us. So offline community. So I mean, one is people wanting to escape sort of places which are inundated with content, inundated also with. I mean, I'm also surprised that we have fake UGC tools today. It should be mandatory for any AI generated content should be labeled it is AI generated. So I mean, people will definitely want to escape, which is where the concept of dark social also comes from. And I think dark social is maybe like a stepping stone to community. Community can be dark social at times, but not every community will be, I think, dark social in that sense. But so I think I'm bullish in a sense that it will accelerate that. There will be positive outcomes for the community space, intentional community space. There will of course be challenges wherein we should be careful of not bypassing the active human strategy and communication part that we really need to put that effort in. AI is fabulous. I use it for certain tasks, but it is also very easy to be led in a direction and think that this will be able to solve everything for us, and then later on you realize that yeah, why nahi. So we need to be careful of that, and that I think every sort of person who is either starting out with intention knows, or they make a mistake and they realize. So we should get there. The other positive I think is that from a product point of view, we are able to see where adding AI capabilities will make the life easier for the community builder. Maybe community builders and the operator also needs sort of a synopsis every day of what happened in my community, which can be AI generated. Can pull the top level data and give it to you, make your life easier. It can come to WhatsApp maybe.
The last part that you said is a very unique insight that you've been able to give us, because we've heard all sorts of takes on AI and community. Somebody is pitching to us an AI community manager. Like you're trying to kick us out of a role and you want our feedback for this. But that thing that you said, that a synopsis or a summary of daily, like what happened in my community, things to flag, is very useful, because most platforms, at least today that we've seen, don't do this. It's a very manual labor task that you have to go through everything, make a summary report, and send it to the brand, etc. So that's like a very like fine-tuned point, I think.
Validated, accelerated on a roadmap.
India has always been community forward. We have always been a part of community, whether that's, our friends, family, society buildings. Like, we are a community first country. Like, we speak to people because we miss that social aspect. And community, even if it's online, the hope is when I'm speaking, I want a Manan to speak back to me as opposed to an Alexa or a Gemini or whatever else you want to name your AI tool, right? I know Circle as a platform also has that AI integration, which a lot of community managers are using it for the same reason that you've suggested. So, yeah, definitely you hit a pain point. So, Manan, before we end, the people know what you've been building, but let them know where they can find you.
Right. Okay. So maincross.net is where you can really go to and find everything about the platform. If you want to connect with me, and I'm increasingly looking to connect with anyone wanting to build intentional community, then you can find me on LinkedIn, which is where I'm most active. I've Last week I've actually created my first Instagram account, so I'll try and be active there. But LinkedIn is currently where I'm at.
Perfect. Okay. Thank you so much for your time, Manan. That's a wrap on this episode of Share Explores. If you've enjoyed our podcast, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel. And of course, follow all of us on LinkedIn. Bye.